Hi guys, and welcome to the Lifestyle Design Secrets podcast, where we talk about fitness, nutrition, mindset, and a whole lot more. Thank you for everyone who's listened to all our episodes so far and taken the time to leave a review. If you do enjoy this episode and want the free content to keep on coming, please do take 2 seconds to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks again. Now let's dive in. Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dani, who is probably one of our top listeners and just told me that all the editing I did on the last episode to cut out the internet issues did not work. So if anyone hears something like that, please do let me know, because editing is clearly not my strong point. But anyway, so to introduce Dani, she is a very good friend of mine, and I have alluded to a little bit that I had a wedding a couple of weeks ago that was really, really good fun, and Dani is the bride. So Dani, tell everyone, firstly, a little bit about yourself and what you do in life.
So we are based here in Queenstown, obviously very recently married. Based here in Queenstown, me and my partner run his business, tourism business here in Queenstown that do private luxury guiding. And that's kind of how we met, is through yourself and my now husband, working very closely in that realm.
Yeah.
A little bit about me: always worked in adventure tourism. I grew up on the west coast of the South Island, beautiful place, lots of adventure, lots of outside opportunities, lots of traveling. Found myself in Queenstown about 5 or 6 years ago now, and always knew that I would end up down here. And that's like a little bit of a background about me and what I'm doing now.
That's perfect. I won't press you too much more on that. And now I'd love for you to give people a little bit of a starter, an intro into your health journey. So it's up to you. You can start with why we started having a chat, or give us a little bit of history. Give us Dani's health history. Is it something you've been conscious of your whole life, or is it just something that you've recently started to think more about?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the consultation that we had. When we first had the consultation, we spoke about what my journey to this point was, and that kind of is what leads me to the upbringing that I had here in New Zealand, but also on the West Coast, is kind of semi-rurally. Mum and Dad were very keen on bringing me up. I'm an only child, so very sustainably, environmentally friendly. Like, I was the only kid at high school that didn't have packets of chips in my lunchbox. There was no chocolate chip cookies. Like, I was going to school with a healthy sandwich or a wrap with lots of fruit, homemade muesli bars. And I always felt like, why have I always got the shit lunch? It was always like, not swapping it, but wanting the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
You and me both. And I was sent to school with like carrots and hummus, and
literally
sometimes, or
every day.
But no packet stuff. And I just wanted the packet stuff because that was what all the cool kids had.
And that's what happens when you're at school. You just want to be the cool kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, same situation. As I learnt to grow older, and I guess on reflection, my parents' influence was to teach me that whole foods were the best for your body, without trying to force feed whole foods down my body. Mum was very much, eat what's on your plate. If you don't eat it, don't put it in the fridge and you can have it for dessert later.
Yeah.
And I love that ethos, because the amount of people, friends, family, everything that just give their kids what they want, and it's not good in the long run, let alone in the short term, that's a whole nother story for another day. But I really respect my parents for doing it. and in hindsight probably hated them at the time, but have now grown up with a very good understanding of food in general and flavour and where my food comes from. And
Yeah,
it's a really
that's really cool. I
good
was about to say,
understanding.
growing up on the West Coast would have been cool for that. And
Yeah.
do you, to give everyone a little bit of context, Dani is now stepmom to the gorgeous little Eddie. Do you find yourself like repeating your parents, or like, are you quite conscious of like what you feed him and things? Because like Scott's boys are terrible. They will be like, I'm not hungry, leave half a plate of dinner, and then be like, can I go get a milkshake?
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, you have to be quite strict these days because there are those convenience options which are so freaking delicious to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
How does
absolutely.
Eddie go in
I
general?
guess with Eddie, at the start, I was very conscious that this is a new realm for everyone, and this was not the time and the place to change not only his house, his home, his bed, his father, but
Yeah.
also change his diet. That was not my intention at all. But I guess slowly but surely, I just altered what we had for dinner when he was at our house,
Yeah.
to make it more friendly for him, and then slowly but surely introduce more vegetables and different foods and stuff that he hadn't tried before, with the intention of saying, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but just try it.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny that you mentioned this, because I kind of did it maybe subconsciously. I just kind of slowly but surely did it, and didn't pay much attention to it. And slowly but surely, Eddie now eats almost everything that I cook, and loves it, absolutely loves it. And his mum
That's so
actually
good.
stopped me in the supermarket one day to say that, oh, Eddie now eats this. And I'm like, yeah, he's been eating that at our house for ages.
So
But
she's
it was
probably
just
stoked
that
as well.
realization that she's absolutely stoked, because he's eating more and he's more adventurous with food. And I mean, not that I take full credit for it at all, but I just see that slight influence that I've had on his life, that could mean that he eats a healthy lifestyle in the future.
Yeah. And it's those little bits and pieces that build up over time as well. Like, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, as you just slowly start putting it in front of them, and especially when you're eating it with them, so you're setting a good example as well at the age
Yeah.
he was. And I
Yeah.
even Caden turned around to me the other day and he was like, it was totally because he'd seen something on TikTok and then remembered what was something I told him like 3 years ago. And it was that if you do something for
Yeah.
18 minutes a day, you're going to be better than
Yeah.
95% of the world. You heard that statistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool one.
No,
And I
but
was,
it makes total sense.
yeah, like every single day. Yeah, it's so powerful. So moving on from kids,
Yeah.
let's move on to the main course, Dani. So Dani's going to be really nice and open today, and we've got quite an amazing story because the reason Dani came to me initially was probably completely different to any of the benefits she felt, but it's quite a fun and a lovely story. So we'll dive into that, but I'll also want to give you some context about, yeah, what Dani told me at her wedding after a few wines. You had to get your ring resized how many times? 3 or 4?
It was twice initially, but my engagement ring was too small to start off with. So the engagement ring was 3 times, and then the wedding ring twice. Which is just, when you custom make a wedding ring, you don't expect to go back to the jeweler and be like, hey, you put all this time and effort in, but I've got something to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really foreign concept to think that you actually lose weight in your fingers.
Yeah, that's really funny. And my another friend and client was just like, it's still working when I have to put my wristwatch up another notch. And I was like, yeah, in your fingers, your wrist, like it's weird, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
it's a really
But yeah, so Dani, dive in, tell people why you first came to have a chat with me, and then, well, when was that? Like August? So I guess the last like
Was it August
seven or
last
eight
year?
months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So me and I'm still getting used to this partner husband.
It's been a
We
year,
have
don't worry, and I
been
still have the same issue. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, we have been struggling with infertility, unexplained infertility, to be a little bit more specific. And I guess for those that don't know, that means that we haven't been able to conceive naturally, um, and that has been a long process of tests, ovulation tests, blood test, HSG, which is quite an intense procedure where they go through and flush out your fallopian tubes, um, and none of it's been successful. So I guess maybe the more environmentally friendly person in me decided that a good opportunity was to look inwards and look at what I was putting into my body to see if that was going to be at all possible to change our situation. And after many a months of taking, 10, 15 pills a day
Oh
to
my
try and
God.
increase this and decrease that, and so and so got pregnant because they took zinc, and so and so got pregnant because they took this, and you just do it because you're that desperate to fall pregnant, and you just do what you can. And then I was like, this is A, costing a lot of money,
Yeah.
B, not actually good for me at all, regardless of what was working and what wasn't working. So I kind of scrapped it all and took off on a clean slate a little bit, and decided that actually, what can we do here that's going to be more beneficial, not for me just to get pregnant, but for my body and my health in the long term. And those
Yeah.
pills were not the answer. And that's kind of when I just reached out to you, knowing your background and knowing what you do, and the people that you've helped. And I just I think I poised it in a way of saying, like, help. What can you
Help?
help
Can it
with?
make a
Um,
difference?
yeah, well, that
Yeah.
was the thing. And you came back to, with some very good insights into estrogen dominance and what we can do with that. And I guess that led to our consultation.
Yeah. Well, that was really interesting, wasn't it? Some of because I don't think you had it fully or like intensely, but it is interesting. Like, so the symptoms of estrogen
No.
dominance that people tend to have are quite phenomenal, and I don't think people know. And especially definitely not at the
Yeah.
size you are now, and potentially even in August. But when you start to build up, I don't know if I explained it fully, but when your body starts to build up plenty of fat stores, your fat starts to act as its own organ and actually starts to secrete its own estrogen, which can make you
Yeah.
store fat in funny places, make you moody.
Yeah.
It's got all sorts of
Yep.
crazy issues. And but yeah, so we sat down and we talked through all of that, didn't we, really? And you noticed some mood changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost instantly. Like, it was really, I guess, I don't want to call it this mind blowing like thing that happened, but as we were discussing it, you was ticking boxes, and because we hadn't talked about what we were going through, I was like, how, like, is this chick a psychologist? Like, how is she? Literally, I was ticking boxes left, right, and center, holding weight in my upper arms, mood
Yeah.
swings. And I was reading it out to my partner Lee, and he was just like, oh, yeah. And I was just like, yeah, like, where has this been this whole time?
That's
So the fact
amazing.
that we could work on that without taking 15 pills a day was, yeah, that was great. Exactly
Yeah,
what we
that does
needed.
make me happy because I think a lot of women come up to me and they're taking a lot of supplements because they're like, oh, this sounds good, and this sounds
Yeah.
good, and this sounds good. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're not doing the basics right, that can sometimes be where it all turns to custard. you don't really see so much of a change.
Yeah.
I will say, Dani, I think I shared it on a story, but I was just perving at your arms at your wedding because it's amazing. Because you've also been, we'll dive into this as well, you've also been going to the gym lots as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
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 And so, yeah, your arms looked incredible.
Thank you. There's been many comments about that, which blows my mind because I've always had big arms. Like, I was a whitewater rafting guide in Japan and in Hammer Springs. So I've always had muscle, and I've always been slightly larger on the shoulders and on the arms. But yes, since I remember saying to you, like, I'd been going to the gym for probably a year, 8 months to a year before August, before I came to see you. And I was just like, it's just so hard to lose weight. And it's just so hard to do and see results. And you said to me, like, it shouldn't be that hard. And I guess not only in combination with, and I'm sure we'll touch on it soon, but combination with your program, but also the weight training that I was doing in the gym, I was seeing results fast. And I was lifting heavier weights. I was feeling stronger, like I was feeling fitter within the first 2 weeks. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't know whether you want to go into this now, but I was not seeing results on the scales for a long time. My weight was not changing, but my whole body composition changed, like, from the get-go.
Yeah, because that was one of the first photos you sent me, wasn't it?
Hard. Yeah. It was hard to grasp my head around because I guess not a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people talk about the weight that they see on the scales and the weight that they see drop. But because I wasn't seeing that, because I was losing fat, but I was also gaining muscle at the same time, almost parallel to each other, the number on the scales did not change. And I guess a lot of people could be defeated by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah, and you sent me photos, and you said your body composition was completely different, and you can see it, you can feel it, you can tell, but that number on the scales like just stays exactly the same. And I had a very similar situation when I was doing F45 in Queenstown, maybe like 5 days a week. And I just didn't experiment on myself because I think I'd been keeping my calories like quite low, in London. It was trendy to look emaciated. I just started eating unlimited protein after this study I'd read. And I gained like maybe 3, 4, eventually 5 kilos of muscle. And I was like, oh my God, the scales are going up, and I'm still going to the gym. And luckily I love the body scanners, which are just so telling. So they can tell you, or calipers, or people have different reasons, or you can just get off the way you feel, right? Yeah. It's a mind fuck. Sorry, I'm going to have to, I always have to put the adult rated thingy on these because eventually someone swears. Usually me.
We were not getting through this.
No, we're both quite good so far. But what was a real, it was a mind fuck. Like, everyone wants to lose weight, everyone wants to be skinny. Like, the diet culture that we've probably both been brought up with, although to give you guys a bit of more of an insight, Dani is a complete baby compared to me. How old are you now? 27? 28?
27.
27, yeah. So, it's even people of Dani's age, for everyone, because quite a lot of our listeners are my age or older. It's a struggle not losing weight on the scales, right? Because that's what we've been told is the right thing to do. And actually building muscle is not only one of the best ways to look amazingly gorgeous and toned and be healthy, but it's also incredible for your longevity because you lose muscle as you age. Like, it's something that we should all be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important. Like, I think females shouldn't be scared of gaining muscle, and they shouldn't be scared of lifting weights. Like, obviously, I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, and I'm very specific in who I follow. But there's some woman on there, and just look incredibly strong, and that is something that
Yeah.
people should aspire to be. This
Yeah.
culture where muscle means masculine is so wrong. The amount of muscle that a woman actually needs to the point where they has quote unquote look masculine is exponentially more than anyone could achieve without.
Oh, you'd have to
Could I
be
say?
lifting the most insane amount of weights.
Yeah,
And I think that's when I
yeah,
tweaked in your consultation. I think I asked what you were lifting in the gym, and I was like, holy shit. Like, you were lifting some incredible stuff. And you were like, I'm just not seeing any progress. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's
yeah,
some progress hiding. Yeah, and
yeah, 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 yeah,
it's what a lot of women don't understand is like they might be really gaining at the gym, like you're saying, making amazing gains, but it's like often quite a thin layer, but a layer of fat you have to strip off the top to be able to see it, to get that toned
yeah,
look
yeah, yeah,
that everyone wants. And
yeah,
women go, I just want to tone up. And I'm like, well, it doesn't
yeah.
really work like that. But as you say, almost in conjunction, you've done like what most people think is impossible, Dani, by the way, which is to build muscle
Oh,
and lose body
stop.
fat at the same time. Seriously. Honestly, like, I don't believe it is because, like, you've proven, as have I, that it's possible in the past.
Yeah,
You can build
yeah,
muscle without gaining fat versus the bodybuilders who go on a huge
yeah,
bulk, gain muscle and fat and size in all
yeah,
manners, and then shred it
yeah,
all back off again. You can actually do both together if
yeah,
you're really switched on.
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, I guess just something
Yeah.
quickly that I wanted to touch on while we were talking about like strong women as such. The gym that I go to here in Queenstown, the women's gym, is like the prime example of every single body type in a
Yeah.
woman, but also every single healthy body type.
Yeah.
Like I think oh, Carla's going to listen to this anyway, but she's done a really good job at kind of creating this atmosphere where it's healthy to be whatever your natural body is, whether you want to lose a lot of weight or you just want to keep fit and or you want to gain muscle and you know
Yeah.
lift heavy weights. And I think
Mm.
that's adamant to her personality, but I also think that's the culture that she's growing in the gym, and it makes people feel really comfortable, which is a lot. It's quite hard to do in a gym, not only a woman's gym, but a lot of people are very scared of the gym, and she's just
Yeah.
made it this really enjoyable place to go and be you, which is really
Yeah.
interesting and a really nice feeling as someone who will enjoy going to the gym for a long time.
Yeah. And that's really important. I think I've been in Carla's gym a couple times and she's gorgeous. And I think she does such an incredible job. Like, everyone I know who goes there loves it. And I think
Yeah,
you've hit the nail on the head because I think there's so many mixed feelings about the gym. And I think, again, F45, which people think is really gnarly and hard, it's full of like, I'm working out with like middle-aged men, like, honestly, like trying to build muscle, like people of all ages, like some like whippersnappers who like make me, especially at 7 months pregnant, look really quite special. But everyone is there and
yeah,
they're trying, and it's such a positive
yeah,
atmosphere. And I think that's amazing. And my friend Anda went to a gym locally recently, naming no names, but she went in and she was like, I just got the vibe that all the women were there to say they'd been to the gym so that they could eat a muffin later and
yeah,
not feel guilty about it. And were there like
yeah,
complaining, basically. And I think
yeah,
it's a total opposite to what you said.
yeah.
exercising to like
And
burn your
don't get me
body
wrong, there are
down.
still people like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's still people like that, and it's just, I mean, it's just kind of switching that mantra. Like, you don't actually need to go to the gym to eat the muffin. Just eat the muffin. Like,
Yeah.
if it means that much to you, makes you that happy, just eat the darn muffin. It actually doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But you should go to the gym because it makes you feel better and it makes you feel good and it gives you more energy, regardless of if you're losing weight or gaining muscle or anything like that. But I also, and back to Carla and the way that she runs the gym, is we've got this app, right? And there's at home workouts for either heavily pregnant ladies or postpartum ladies that can't make it to the gym as
Yeah.
often as they need. And I think that's a really interesting concept for someone from a gym owner who obviously will make money out of the more people that go to the gym, the more money she makes, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a business mind, but that's theoretically that's what it is. And if you're giving someone the tools to work out at home, is that not almost contradicting your business model? But it's because she actually wants the best for people.
Yeah. Well, no, she's very clever. I think multiple reasons, but I think she's recognized something that her clients need and want, and how much more likely are those gorgeous women to want to come back to the gym if Carla's been able to
Yeah,
support them through their pregnancy and postpartum journey, for example. Yeah. Or
yeah,
like just offer
yeah,
them
for
more
sure.
accessibility so that like when a kid is sick, they can still do a workout from home.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, she's
yeah,
just doing an epic job, which I think will make people want to come back. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's good.
I can't even remember what I was going to ask you next. There's something on the tip of my tongue. I reckon this baby brain thing is a real. It might be getting real. My brain's starting to mush.
I so noticed
So
it when in your last stories you're like heavily breathing in between like each sentence, and I was like,
yeah,
she's getting big.
I know. It's so I can like try and show you on camera. Like it's like I look okay, but my boobs massive. Feel like I've had a boob job. But yeah, it's getting apparently your uterus starts to
Honestly,
push
it
up
does.
into what? It does.
Honestly, like if you didn't know, if I saw just that top half of you, you'd be like, "Did you go to Thailand? Like, what happened here?"
It's not, I just come back from Bali, guys. um, no, I wish. No, so what were we talking about before boob jobs being heavily pregnant? Yeah. So apparently um, your uterus starts to get so big it actually pushes up into your lungs, which makes you like
Ah,
yeah,
short
makes you
fuse.
quite out of breath. And so if you even when you're bending down and standing
Yeah.
sort of, yeah, laughing your head off of this. Yeah, just bending down to like put your shoes on and stuff. You come up and you're like it's really embarrassing, but it's quite funny. And like I said,
I can
Danny
only
and I were
imagine.
just it was yeah, it's weird. It's weird to imagine. It's I was having a rant before we came on because obviously, wonderful women like Danny with kind of trying to get pregnant, and then all pregnant people do is complain. So I've been really trying not to because I'm really happy that I am here, and I think a lot of pregnant women forget that because it is tiring and everything's changing and everything feels funny and everything hurts a bit. So, but I think being grateful for where you are at any stage of the journey, I think is really important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so, Danny, I want to delve a little bit more into exactly what you did for the listeners who don't know. And
Oh,
so, like, because you were sending me food photos the whole time, and they were epic. But you told me at the wedding you did actually lose weight in the end, did you?
well, not initially. I mean,
Yeah.
I
When
take
you,
my journey from probably almost a year before we had our consultation, because that
yeah,
was kind of where I started. I guess to give people a bit of an insight, and I know you've spoken about BMI on here before, but we had a consultation initially with our fertility doctor about qualifying for publicly funded IVF, albeit we'd only just started trying, and my BMI was 33.5, which puts me at highly obese.
Which, can I just say, like, the whole muscle
obviously,
thing, they have no
well,
idea,
that's the
do
thing,
they?
right? And it doesn't. No, but you can't tell someone who that's. And she knew, the doctor knew. She was like, "You're not overly obese. That's just not who you are." So I guess
Yeah.
going back to that point, where we were told that I had to lose weight to qualify for publicly funded IVF, my initial reaction was like, no one tells me what to do. So my initial reaction was not to lose any weight at all and to say,
Yeah.
bugger you, I will, sort this out. And so that's kind of when I first obviously came off my high horse a little bit and said, it's not going to harm me if I lose some weight. It's probably actually beneficial for my whole lifestyle, regardless if we fall pregnant at all.
Yeah.
And that's probably when I started going to the gym here in Queenstown and actually putting time and making it a priority to be more active and eat less portion sizes and eat healthier, quote unquote, because following into our consultation, I thought I was, and I guess, and you've spoken about this a lot on here, but I thought I was eating very healthy. I was eating my fruits and vegetables. I was eating red meat. I was doing this. I was doing that. But I guess when it came down to it, my protein was the biggest thing that blew my mind. About I was eating 50, sometimes 60 grams of protein a day, which it's, in hindsight is nowhere near enough for my body and how active my lifestyle is and the results that I was looking to achieve for the wedding. So we spoke about increasing protein and lowering carbs and yeah, just really getting a grasp on how that would affect my body. And I remember very, very clearly the day after our consultation where I ate only protein for an entire day. Because
That's
if anyone knows me, they'll know that I am not only quite stubborn, but I also will dive right into anything that I think is a good thing. So I ate only protein and a high amount of protein that initial day, and I remember sending you my macros, and you were like, Dani, it's okay to eat vegetables. And I just kind of went from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? Like I just went full bore into it. And so after, I guess it must have been a couple of weeks where we'd kind of discussed a little bit more on how that looks in a healthier sense of the word high protein diet. But I loved it. Like, I mean, not only do I enjoy eating a lot of meat anyway, but like someone to tell me that I needed to eat more meat and that I needed to have eggs and bacon for breakfast every morning, like, easy. So easy.
And so can we just actually clarify, you started eating eggs and bacon for breakfast and you lost weight and changed your body composition?
Yeah. So I changed from occasionally eating breakfast to eating breakfast almost every day, depending on how I felt. And I remember actually, I think you spoke about it on the last episode, actually, with, what's his name?
Chris.
About actually listening to your body, and if your body's hungry, then eat breakfast. But
Yeah.
if you're not hungry, then your body's telling you something. Your body's telling you you're not actually hungry. So maybe wait till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock to eat something. And kind of, if your body's getting the right amount of what it needs, then, and it's not necessarily, oh, I have to eat breakfast and I have to do this. Like I found probably at the start of this year, I would say that my body actually functioned better at the gym with no food in me.
Didn't, because I think I
Or
mentioned you were
very
eating
little
something
food.
before you went to the gym because you'd been told you had to, or like straight afterwards. And I
No,
was like,
after the gym.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, you don't have to do that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I was making sure that I was either, and this is pre-consultation, like drinking a protein shake or having some kind of protein straight after the gym, which to me, and this is quite I don't know how to describe it. I've never told anyone this, but to me that was going to the sushi shop, which, and everyone that goes to Carla's gym knows that the sushi shop's in the same car park. I would
Yeah.
do this hard, intensive workout, and then I would go and eat sushi, which is full of carbs, very little protein, and that was what I was putting into my body straight after a workout. And I was like, that was my little treat to get me through the workout, but it just completely counterbalanced everything that I'd just spent 2 hours doing. And so I
Yeah.
cut that out and I waited an hour to 2 hours before I had a really high protein meal. And that consists of 3 eggs and sometimes 4 bits of bacon, a tablespoon of kimchi, because why not? And
Yum.
I
Yeah.
loved it. And to be honest with you, like, and I know I'm stepping forward a little bit here, but post wedding, I just did whatever I felt was right for my body and kind of let go a little bit in terms of what I had to eat. But this last week, I've gone back to eating 3 eggs, however I like it, four
Yeah.
bits of bacon, some
Yeah.
kimchi, maybe some avocado, because I know that my body functions really well at the start of the day with that breakfast.
Yeah. And Dani, that's where I wanted to go before I lost my train of thought. This is what I loved, and you shared it in our group. So after being quite like strict, you kind of called it, but like really
Yeah.
sensible, really probably quite conscious, very conscious of what you're eating in the run up to your wedding, which I think if
Yeah.
I trust anyone to do that healthily, it's you. So you were very, very good in the run up to your wedding. And then the wedding, full wedding cake, full carbs, booze for the last couple of weeks. And you shared how that made you feel.
Yeah.
How did
Yeah,
that
I
go for
guess,
you? You could feel a difference,
to
obviously.
be blunt, not very good. I guess leading up to the wedding, I was just not in the mindset where I wanted to, and this might be quite controversial to the wedding industry, I guess. I didn't want to be the smallest I possibly could. I didn't
Yeah,
want to lose all this weight right before the wedding. One, because I wouldn't look like myself
yeah,
and I would potentially regret that. And I believe actually a guest that I had on a tour said that to me. She said, whatever you do, make sure you look like yourself on your wedding day. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, so I'm not going to lose
Noted.
20 kilos
Oh my
before my
god.
wedding day. I'm not going to
No.
starve myself because I need to function in the gym and in my job. So there's no point in starving myself because that's not going to get me anywhere anytime
Yeah,
soon. And yeah, I was quote unquote strict on my eating, but I knew that there was an end goal, and I knew that after the wedding I could let loose.
but you weren't strict enough
And
to
so
like inhibit performance, if that makes sense.
no,
Like you could still
and
function
like I was
perfectly well, and you
still,
felt good.
I felt amazing, and I told this to many people post wedding. Like I knew that I did everything that I could to make sure that I looked the best that I wanted to look like on my wedding day. And I felt like $1 million. Like, I felt incredible.
You looked $1 million.
That lead up to that was going to produce an outcome like that. And so I also knew that post-wedding, I had an opportunity to eat whatever I wanted. And that included, and I also think that no one should be restrictive post-wedding, regardless of your situation, but that included all the wedding cake, all of it. And that included all the carbs, all the pastas, everything that I had been missing out on, I guess you could call it, in the lead up to the wedding. And I got about 3 or 4 days post-wedding, and I was like, I feel terrible. I was like, what? Like, not mentally, obviously. I was on a high mentally because I just married the love of my life. But my body felt inflamed, and it felt like I was bloated constantly. And I could almost see it in my face when I looked in the mirror. I was like, this is not... And I guess it was a contrast because the week before I was the best condition that I could be in. So I just kind of... And I guess it was an experiment to see, if the program had worked and if the program was going to work for me long term, can I go and do 3-4 days of not even thinking about what I'm eating and eat whatever, knowing that it actually doesn't make me feel any good anymore. And I know we spoke about this as well, like the amount of people that are potentially out there not eating enough protein or not eating the nutritional requirements and feeling really shit about what they're looking like. When the alternative is actually a lot simpler, a lot easier, and more maintainable.
It's really interesting, and it's like I'm with you. Like we talked about, post wedding, you had wedding cake, I had a cheesecake, 7 kilos of cheese we ate in the few weeks following the wedding. Like it was funny. But even it was so good. But even this weekend we went. It's our 1 year wedding anniversary. So we went to Aosta.
Congratulations.
Thanks. We went to Aosta and had the degustation menu, which was comical. Like it was delicious, but they bring you like 4 or 5 courses, and then they pick 3 or 4 bits of the menu, pieces off the menu to bring you.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, do you have any dietary requirements?" Like, no, go for gold, bring us whatever. Well, what I didn't expect, and I love Aosta, so sorry to bag you guys, but the table next door were getting like salmon and like a tomato salad and stuff like that. We literally got like bread combined with like a paste on a crostini bread thing, followed by gnocchi, followed by pasta. Like both Scott and I were sat there being like, what the hell is going on? Like I love pasta. I was excited about it.
You've got 7 courses of this to come and you're full.
It was, but like disgusting. And like, I love pizza, so I quite often go and eat pizza, but like, it was, because it was so delicious as well, we ate it all. And but it was just, it felt yuck. And we felt yuck the next day. It was crazy. And then we had a really baller weekend. We don't usually do this, but we were like Airbnb-ing the house. So we went this is Scott's idea as well, booked us in for another degustation menu on the next night at the Japanese at Millbrook. So for anyone thinking that I don't ever eat food, 2 degustation menus in a weekend, try that for your waistline. But that was completely different. Like it was like sashimi, loads of fish, some delicious meat as well, and like a small amount of white sushi rice whenever you wanted it.
Yeah.
felt completely different, felt completely fine.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's just
it's
such a
insane.
comparison.
Yeah. So it's like those, and like you
And
said.
one thing that I remember.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No,
One
that's
thing that I
right.
remember saying on the group chat that we've got, like the amount of carbohydrates that you need to eat to become full. Like I was eating like seconds and thirds of what. Obviously, I make quite nice food.
Yeah.
So I was eating like seconds and thirds of these pasta dishes, and I was just like, "This is delicious." So I'm going to keep eating it. I'm also 3 days post wedding, so I'm entitled to eat whatever I want. But I'm
Yeah.
eating it, and then I kind of, once you get that feeling in your body, you know when it's full, you know when it's still hungry, and I'm like, oh, I could probably do with some more. So I go up and
Yeah.
go get another bowl, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and then about half an hour later, I'm like, God, I feel like shit. I feel rubbish, and then I'm like, but I'm still hungry.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. So to get
And
into
I
the geeky
couldn't.
science, like that's
Yeah.
Jessie, the glucose goddess, talks about it quite a lot. So first of
Yeah.
all, there's no protein or very little. It's something like pasta or pizza or whatever. So there's nothing to trigger your hunger and satiety hormones that you've eaten and that you're full. Whereas protein's very satiating. Carbohydrates are not.
Yeah.
There's also the trigger that the protein leverage hypothesis says that you will overeat every other type of food, so mainly carbohydrates, especially processed ones, delicious ones,
Yeah.
until your protein requirements are met. And so if you
Yeah.
haven't met them, you can just keep going and going and going, and the yucky feeling is the
Literally.
glucose spike, which can be a glucose spike, makes you feel like funny and a bit agitated almost, and then a crash. And then you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we still do it on holidays.
I follow her as well.
Like after weddings. Yeah. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Dani. I think the recording's a bit delayed on this one, so it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
I've followed her since you told me to look into what she talks about. And the interesting thing with her, and she goes on about eating a vegetable starter. And I've kind of always thought about it, and then the more that I do it, and the more that, for example, we quite often go to a local restaurant here. It's a Japanese restaurant called Tenoshi here in town, if you know.
Oh, yeah.
Know. Amazing. Yeah. And always now ordering edamame beans as a starter. Not only are they high in protein, but they prevent that glucose spike. So that if you want a sushi rice or you want whatever, then it actually prevents you from having those really high highs and then dropping down into those really low lows. And you have a really enjoyable meal and you eat and then you're full and then you kind of just, it's like a constant plateau. You kind of feel good.
Yeah. Rather than that big up and down. Yeah. And we're talking about post-wedding here, we're talking about anniversary weekends and like we're going out for dinner, things like that. But I think what's really detrimental is that the majority of people I had older than your generation, so I'm not sure if you're related to this or not, but 3 women start last week who were like, I am terrified of eating that much fat. Are you sure? Like the doctrine of the 80s, they're still all eating like whole wheat toast, because that's what's good for you, or some form of cereal, and then sort of struggling, trying not to eat throughout the day because they feel like they shouldn't. And then eating something like a milkshake, or drinking something like a milkshake that says it's high in protein and really isn't, or crackers, or just kind of suffering through. I think that's where, would you agree though, Dani? So if you eat like you've been eating pre-wedding the majority of the time, you can have those 3 or 4 day, eat whatever the hell you want and go back to normal and it's absolutely fine.
Yep.
pretty good, isn't
100%.
it?
100%. And I guess I was quite apprehensive before we came and did this consultation, because I'm such a foodie and I did not want to miss out on eating good food.
Yeah.
And with the job and the lifestyle that we have at the moment, we do eat out a lot. And I remember speaking to you in the consultation about it, and it was like, well, what do I order? What do we try? And the thing that I found, most high-end restaurants, maybe apart from Aosta, will normally have meat and vegetables.
Yeah.
In some form
So
of
true.
another.
Yeah.
And that is quite an easy alternative. Bunless burgers, super easy, super simple. Just asking for a low-carb option.
This is exactly what I should be asking
when we
you.
Flew overseas. Yeah.
Yeah, in your line of work. Dani, tell us all your
overseas.
eating out tricks. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess either asking for a low-carb option or asking, can you just not put the potatoes on my plate?
Yeah, I do that
super
often.
simple.
Yeah.
The price is most commonly the same. That's the only issue that, if you're missing out on potatoes, then the price is most commonly the same. But yeah, a lot of people I still
kept coming out again. The thing I commonly see is that people feel like they want to get the chips and they want to get the bun or they want to get the potatoes because they feel like they need to get their money's worth in volume.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's quite an old school thing. Like, if you're eating out, you want as much as possible. And I think we need to learn as a society to flip that on its head, because portion sizes are obscene. And those extra potatoes, those 5-8 potatoes, they are not adding value to your day, to your experience, to your body. You'll just want to go to sleep in an hour's time. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's a tricky one to get your head around.
On the flip side to that, the flip side of that is, if you want to order the fries, just order the fries. Like if you've just been for example, and I'm quite glad the timing of this podcast actually is pretty much perfect. So, for example, I've just spent the last week with a lovely lady from Toronto, Canada. And we've gone on hikes, we've done whitewater rafting, we've done this, we've done that, and she's a vegetarian. So that posed an interesting challenge, I guess you could say, to myself, who would happily not eat vegetables if she didn't have to, and she was eating vegetables, but it wouldn't be my first choice when going to a cafe. The thing with having a guest of a high caliber in a luxury tourism business is that when it's one-on-one, she expects me to eat with her.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. She's an absolutely lovely woman. But that posed a really challenge for me because she didn't say this at all, but I didn't feel comfortable eating meat in front of someone who has been strictly vegetarian since they were 5 years old.
Wow, yeah.
And she was 58. So she's been vegetarian her entire life, descends from India, so that's where it was more of a moral thing for her, and full respect. You do you, everything else. So here am I, shoveling down jerky, pork crackling, anything that I could possibly get in me before picking her up at 9:00 in the morning, on top of my eggs and bacon, because I knew I'm going to spend the next however long with her, and I thought that it was respectful for me to just eat vegetables. To be honest, I kind of enjoyed it. We've got some nice cafes that do really good vegetable dishes.
Yeah.
And it was great. But we went and did a 5-hour hike up the Brookburn track the other day, and we had lunch afterwards, and she was just like, "Oh, let's get some fries," and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." let's get the fries, because we just exerted 23,000 steps.
Yeah, oh my
and I'd
God.
already eaten all the protein for the day before I picked her up anyway. So I wasn't,
Yeah.
worried about that, matter of fact. And I was just like, actually, those fries tasted amazing. And I knew that because I was going back to the glucose goddess, I was eating the vegetables first before the carbohydrates. I knew that I wasn't going to get a glucose spike, and it was fine. And I didn't need to explain any of that to her. She just thought, oh, this is great.
Yeah, and it's so funny, isn't it? Yeah. But like, you've just hit the nail on the head as well. And like, when you've done a massive hike like that, your muscles are like pools of glucose, right? So after a massive, massive 23,000 steps, they will be empty pools. So if you dump a load of glucose like chips into them, they will just soak it up. The problem comes if you are a sedentary office worker and you go and order the chips at lunchtime and your muscles are already full of glucose and your liver has to work out where to put it, which is usually into fat stores around your belly. But yeah, so I completely agree. I reckon the beauty of this way of eating is you can order the fries when you want the fries. Basically.
Yeah.
Eat the ice cream when you want the ice cream.
Yeah.
Trying to think
and
what else
eat it
I've
without
eaten
feeling
recently.
guilty as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Which is a major thing in this society.
Yeah. I think again I've always found I feel like you have such an incredible headspace around food and around your body and confidence, because I think a lot of women struggle with the all or nothing. So I've eaten a fry now.
Yeah.
I'm off the wagon.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's still got that all or nothing mentality, listen to Dani, who's just had the most incredible wedding, felt on top of the world, felt $1 million, has had a 4 to 5 day, probably a couple of weeks, carb binging. And the thing is, you don't need to panic. You really don't need to panic, because once you know the way back to feeling good and looking how you want to look, and you've done it once, you can do it again. So it's not so much a binge and restrict cycle, but it's giving yourself full flexibility when you want it. But the majority of the time, being honest with yourself about what makes you feel good and gives you the best energy to fuel your days.
Yeah.
That sound about right?
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
What have we not covered, Dani?
Oh, I don't know. I guess, no, I think we've covered it all.
We have. So, because you listen to this podcast, what takeaways would you give to people? Have you thought about this? Or am I just putting you on the spot?
I have thought about it. And without being very, I guess, without going into too much information, we need to listen to our bodies more. Like, we just need to, if something is too difficult or too hard and you're struggling, then it's not going to work. There's no point in putting energy into it. And you need to find an alternative, no matter what that is, whether this works for you or not. And I think if you find something that works for you and that has profound effects like it did for myself, I think if it's simple and it's easy and it works, then just do it and keep doing it, because why would you be miserable and put up with this diet if it's not working? And I guess keep it simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be all these supplements. It doesn't need to be all these different crazy recipes. Like, it just should be simple and easy, and you should be able to enjoy life while I want to say losing weight, but I don't want to say losing weight at the same time. While improving your lifestyle, I guess you would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I reckon
and for those people that are potentially at the beginning of their, you know, journey, that it can get better, and it does get better. And I've lost my train of thought.
That would be a real
interesting. Don't be alarmed when the scales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, don't be alarmed when the scales don't produce the number that you were expecting. I mean, I'm all for throwing scales in the bin or taking the battery out if it stops you from jumping on the scales, because it's not the be all and end all, and how you feel should be, you know, what matters the most.
And I think what I could tell on your wedding day as well, Dani, was yes, you looked incredible physically, but it's just the fact that you'd so clearly turned up for yourself. You were turned on like the brightest light in the room, honestly. And that is because you committed to wanting to feel the best that you possibly could. It's not about the how. It's not about the exact what. You knew how you wanted to feel.
Yeah.
And you took all the steps that you knew you could to make it happen. And I think it's a huge testament to just having the confidence, right? I think.
Yeah.
To know that you can make those changes.
Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's definitely something that it does require a lot of effort, and it does require a lot of thought and priority. If you don't make it a priority in your life to eat well and live well, then you're not. You're going to eat shit and live shit, I guess.
Yeah, and when people say, oh, I don't have time. Yeah, when people say I don't have time, what they mean is it's not a priority. And it's like when you
Everyone
embark
has the same amount of hours in the day.
Yeah, so true. So I listened to something amazing the other day, but it's in the program. 1 hour of exercise, 5% of your day. How crazy is that? It's outstanding, I reckon.
Yeah, it's crazy. I listened to a little bit of James Smith as well. I'm sure you've mentioned him on the podcast before as well. And he, you know, the level, you know, the 5% of the day that you spend in the gym, and then comparatively to your NEAT output, which is walking from the car to the supermarket, or walking from the car to the office, walking up the stairs rather than taking the escalator or elevator. You know, those are the times where it actually makes the most amount of difference in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. And you say your job, taking people on hikes as a guide, versus someone who sits in an office all day and then pulls a funny face when I suggest they should try and get out for a 15-minute walk at lunchtime. It's really, it's that contrast. It's the NEAT, it's the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Yeah, just moving more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just moving more without having to go and, you know, you don't have to go and pump iron at the gym, just increasing your steps. 80% of fat is burnt through our breath, which is so creepy. But during that NEAT time, so
which you might be doing a little bit more of.
I know.
Recently.
I'm gonna have a baby but be shredded. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Surely.
Yeah, surely. Oh dear. We should probably call it a day. 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Yeah. This was so
Dani,
good.
thank you. No, thank you for coming on and having a chat. Any final thoughts for anyone and everyone?
I guess just listen to your body. Do what feels good. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Perfect. Boom. Mic drop. And we're done. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Dani.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lifestyle Design Secrets podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please do stop and take 2 seconds to subscribe and leave us a review. It means the world to us. If you are curious about working with us or checking out our new bite-sized guides or our full body reset transformation programs, please do head on over to our website, which is www.amysfitnessandnutrition.co.nz. Have a great day.